Mike Flanagan taking over the reboot of The Exorcist has sparked interest in him rescuing the Friday the 13th franchise, but there's another horror franchise from the 1980s that needs Flanagan more. The horror genre has been going through a great run in recent years with adaptations of other works, legacy sequels, and reboots of popular horror franchises. The successful return of franchises like Halloween and Scream has led to the revival of others, though not all of them have had the same success, and others haven't moved past development. Among the latest horror franchises to come back to life through legacy sequels/reboots is The Exorcist with David Gordon Green's The Exorcist, Believer, a direct sequel to William Friedkin's 1973 classic. Unfortunately, The Exorcist, Believer didn't live up to expectations and turned out to be a huge disappointment, leading the studio to rethink their reboot trilogy plans. Mike Flanagan is now in charge of a second Exorcist reboot with a movie separate from Believer, leading to hopes for him to revive Friday the 13th too, but there's one franchise that needs him the most. Mike Flanagan has expressed interest in directing A Nightmare on Elm Street. Mike Flanagan is one of the modern masters of horror. Mike Flanagan has earned a spot among the masters of horror thanks to movies like Oculus, Hush, and Dr. Sleep, as well as the TV shows The Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass, and The Fall of the House of Usher. Flanagan's name is now synonymous with quality and depth in the horror genre, so there's a lot of anticipation around his projects. Flanagan being in charge of The Exorcist's second reboot is quite promising for the franchise, and with Friday the 13th going through issues with its latest project, there's interest in him taking over it too, but there's also A Nightmare on Elm Street. Flanagan quoted a post on X, formerly Twitter, of a piece of fan art featuring Freddy Krueger's face and the caption, "Mike and Freddy." Flanagan simply wrote, "A guy can dream," but that was enough to spark interest in what his take on A Nightmare on Elm Street could be like. The A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise started in 1984 with Wes Craven's movie of the same name, which introduced the world to a one-of-a-kind slasher killer who haunts his victims where they're most vulnerable, their dreams, and if he kills them there, they die in the real world, too. The critical and commercial success of A Nightmare on Elm Street spawned a franchise with 6 sequels, a crossover with Friday the 13th, and a remake, as well as a TV show, comic books, a documentary, and more. A Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the most popular and beloved franchises in the horror genre, and, surprisingly, it hasn't gotten a legacy sequel yet, but a reboot has been trapped in development hell for a long time now. A Nightmare on Elm Street's reboot has been in development hell for years. The last A Nightmare on Elm Street movie was released in 2010.